In the very beginning, before anything was anything, there was only God, and God had a wonderful plan. It was a plan filled with love and light and everything good. The world was not there yet. It was all dark and empty and quiet. It was like a big, dark, silent room waiting for someone to switch on the light and fill it with wonderful things. God's heart was so full of love it couldn't be kept inside. He wanted to make something beautiful, a place to share all his love and all his happiness. So, with just his words, he began the greatest story ever told, a story about creating a brand new world just for his children. So God spoke, and when God speaks, amazing things happen. He said, "Let there be light." And just like that, light burst forth. It danced and it shimmered and it chased all the darkness away. It was the very first morning. God saw the light, and he smiled. He saw that it was good. It was very, very good. He separated the brand new light from the darkness that was left behind. He called the light day, and he called the darkness night. And that was the end of the very first day, a day made from nothing but God's powerful, loving words. Then God spoke again on the second day. He looked at all the water that was everywhere and said, "Let's make a space in the middle." And with his words, he pushed the waters up and pushed the waters down. In between, he made a great big space. He called this beautiful, wide open space sky. It was a giant blue canopy stretching out over everything. It was a ceiling for his new world, a place where clouds would one day float like fluffy sheep. God looked at the sky he had made, this vast and wonderful expanse, and he knew it was just right. It was another piece of his perfect plan falling into place. On the third day, God's creating voice continued its work. He looked at the water below the sky and said, "Waters, gather together in one place and let dry ground appear." And it happened. The waters rushed together to form big, deep oceans and sparkling seas. And where the water used to be, brand new dry land pushed its way up. God called the dry ground land, and he called the gathered waters seas. But the land looked a little bare. So God spoke again, "Let the land be covered with green things." And suddenly grass sprouted like a soft green carpet, and plants and tall trees grew, bursting with colorful flowers and delicious fruit. Now the world was ready for more light. So on the fourth day, God looked up at the big empty sky and had another wonderful idea. He said, "Let there be lights in the sky to separate the day from the night." And so he made a great big brilliant light for the daytime. He called it the sun. It would shine warmly and help all the plants and trees to grow strong. Then he made a smaller, gentle light for the nighttime. He called it the moon. It would glow softly in the darkness. And just to make the night sky extra special and sparkly, he scattered it with billions and billions of tiny twinkling lights. He called them the stars. The world was beautiful, but it was still very quiet. So on the fifth day, God decided to fill it with sound and movement. He looked at the big blue seas and said, "Let the water be filled with living things." And suddenly, the water was teeming with life. There were tiny little fish that shimmered like jewels and giant whales that sang deep, rumbling songs. Dolphins leaped and played in the waves. God also looked up at the sky and said, "Let birds fly above the earth across the great sky." And just like that, birds of every shape and color filled the air with their happy songs, soaring and swooping through the clouds. God saw all the swimming things and all the flying things, and he was so happy. He saw that it was all very good. He blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth." He wanted his beautiful world to be full of life and joy. He loved watching the fish dart through the water and hearing the birds sing their morning songs. His wonderful plan was coming together more and more, and every corner of his new creation was now filled with the splashing and the singing of new life, a grand orchestra playing for its creator. The sixth day arrived, and God looked at the dry land. It was covered in green grass and tall trees, but it was empty. So God spoke once more, "Let the land produce living creatures." And out they came. There were big stomping elephants and tall graceful giraffes. There were fuzzy little rabbits that hopped, and strong lions that roared. There were crawling creatures like turtles and slithering creatures like snakes. Big animals, small animals, tame animals, and wild animals. God made them all. The land was no longer empty. It was filled with the sounds of running and leaping and buzzing and roaring. The whole world was alive. After God had made everything else, the light, the sky, the land, the seas, the sun, moon and stars, and all the animals, he saved his most special creation for last. Everything was perfect and ready, but something was missing. Someone was missing. God wanted someone to share his beautiful world with. He wanted someone he could talk to and walk with, someone who was made to be like him. So God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." He wanted to make people who could love and create and choose, just like him. This would be his masterpiece, the part of creation that held his heart. So God reached down to the brand new earth. He took some dust from the ground and very gently, very lovingly, he formed a man. He shaped him carefully, making him different from all the animals. Then God did something amazing. He leaned in close and breathed his own breath, the breath of life, into the man. And the man's eyes opened and he was alive. God named him Adam. Adam was the very first person. He wasn't just a creature, he was a child of God, made from love to be loved. He was made to be God's friend and to take care of the wonderful world God had made. But God looked at Adam in the beautiful garden, and he saw that Adam was all alone. "It is not good for the man to be alone," God thought. So God caused Adam to fall into a deep, deep sleep. While Adam was sleeping, God took one of Adam's ribs, and from that rib he made another person. He made a woman. When Adam woke up, God brought her to him. Adam's heart was filled with joy. He said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." He named her Eve. Now they were together, a perfect pair, made for each other and made for God. Adam and Eve were not like the animals. They were special. They were made in God's image, which means they were a little bit like him. They could think and feel deep feelings. They could laugh and talk and sing. Most importantly, they could love. They could love God back, and they could love each other. God had made everything in the whole world, but Adam and Eve were his treasure. They were his children, and he loved them with a never-stopping, never-giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. The whole world was a gift from God's heart to theirs. God had made a perfect world for his children, and inside that world, he made an even more perfect home. It was a special garden called Eden. It was the most beautiful place you could ever imagine. The flowers were always in bloom, and their sweet perfume filled the air. The trees were heavy with delicious, juicy fruit of every kind. Sparkling rivers flowed through the garden, watering all the plants. The animals were all tame and friendly. Lions would lie down next to lambs, and Adam and Eve could play with them all. It was a place of perfect happiness and perfect peace, where God himself would walk with them in the cool of the day. In this perfect garden, God gave Adam and Eve everything they could ever need or want. He told them, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden." They could eat sweet apples, juicy peaches, and yummy figs. The whole garden was theirs to enjoy and to take care of. But God gave them one rule, just one. He pointed to a special tree in the middle of the garden. It was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God said, "You must not eat from this tree, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." This rule wasn't to be mean, it was to protect them and to give them a choice to love and trust him. God wanted Adam and Eve to choose to love him. Real love is always a choice, so he gave them this one rule to see if they would trust him and obey his loving words. For a while, everything was perfect. Adam and Eve lived happily in the garden, walking with God, talking with him, and enjoying all the wonderful things he had made for them. They had everything they needed, they had each other, and they had God's friendship. But one day, a sneaky serpent came and whispered lies to Eve. He made her doubt God's goodness. He made her wonder if God was keeping something good from her. And sadly, Adam and Eve made a choice. It was a very sad choice. They chose not to trust God. They chose to listen to the serpent's lies instead of God's loving words. They took the fruit from the one tree God had told them not to eat from, and they ate it. In that moment, everything changed. Their choice broke the perfect friendship they had with God and let sadness and fear into the world for the first time. But even though they had disobeyed, God's story did not end there. His love for his children was too big. This was just the beginning of his great rescue plan to bring them back to him.